and RSUG code samples, and link your samples even here, and you specify now the name here. Let's say link you. It doesn't exist yet. Something I forgot. Code with 2 quotes actually. Let's run it, and you see that link has been created now. You can open it and see how it looks like. It's an entire code that specifies every class, and let's drag drop it here. Sure why it doesn't open, never mind. You can just add a new class here, or existing item. Paste it here. And see how it looks like actually. It's generated for you automatically. I reduce it to show you the entire things it has created, the folders, task lists, and all, for example, whatever lists you have also here. Let's navigate for some lists. For example, you see here the batch list, for example. So you will see that it has also created for you something with the batch list. You see here. So everything that is contained, it has created a wrapper for you to use, simply like that. But required, just use the SP method, it will be ready for you. This is the first option. This is the requirement actually. Once you have created the SP method, generated class, you can use it directly within your SharePoint. You have to use SP context, similar approach. I will show you this in the demo. This is the first mode, link you to SharePoint. The other classical way, I actually using the RPC. The RPC actually is a remote procedure call, and this is a similar approach to the web service. It uses XML syntax. And in order for you to add operations for CRUD, specifically for large, or batch operations, you are, not creating, it's not suitable for 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 items. It's when you are doing really batch operations. Supposedly you have a form which has select all, for example, checkbox list, for example, from various selections, and you are not going to make a loop and do one by one an update or delete or add. It's not really the recommended approach. So you are selecting every all the selection of items within this approach. Select all maybe 2,000 or 3,000 selections, and you are doing in one time a batch operation, whether to delete them or to update them. So this is a very recommended approach for using batch operations, the RPC. It's actually available within your SP web object, something called process batch data, and you pass a string object. This string object is a XML format object, and I will show you the structure and the format of this object. Once you do that, it will return for you also a XML string which contains the results, what has happened, failed or succeeded. So there's a code also returned. The final approach is maybe the approach everybody knows or uses, is the SP list item class. This is where you delete or update, where you specify your item field attributes, and you perform your operations. I believe most developers are very familiar with the SP list item class, but from what I've seen before, not most developers are familiar specifically with the RPC methodology. Let's do a demo now and see how you can perform those operations. But before we do that, I'm going to be using the ANS profiler. This is a very powerful performance recording tool from Redgate. Redgate is more familiar with database systems, but also it provides nice tools to count your application performance, and it will really profile your code and see which lines took more time or less time. So it's a helpful tool. One more thing is that we are not using the .NET 4.0, we're using the .NET 3.5. So it doesn't matter even if we're using the Visual Studio 2010, but the target framework here is actually 3.5. So it works nice with 3.5. We don't have a problem with that. And always remember, when you do anything, you will face that the web application is not found unless you specify the target framework, such as here, to be 64-bit. Where is it? I cannot see it here. Platform. Not here. So. You have to specify it actually 64-bit. Sometimes it's by mistake, it comes to 86, which is a 32-bit. So you will see some exceptions generated that it cannot find the web application. Anyway, this code will be provided to you. I will upload it to RSUG. There's a lot of code actually. Yeah, I will show you a bit of this code. And just minimize everything first. And you see that there are a lot of methods I have created for you here to use various operations. And this is actually the format of your RPC. It takes elements in terms of method. You specify here whatever name you would like, and you scope it. For a list here, you provide the list GUID, and then you specify the ID you'd like to perform. So if it's a new element you'd like to add, you just specify new, you write new. Or you specify the real ID if you are performing a delete or update operation. If it's still not created, you just write new. And the CMD is here also, whether you want to delete or whether you want to update. So these things you provide here. And finally, the title or the other field attributes you'd like to perform, you do them here. So if you have more, a camel query or something like this, we'll be discussing about this. So first of all, let's create some objects. And this is the basic thing people want to know, was creating objects. First of all, before that, I have performed yesterday this test, and some snapshots about the results were taken here. So, for example, I have added here 100,000 items using the normal object model. How long time did it take? These are snapshots of yesterday, the previous, because it took 1 hour. You can see here the duration here, around 1 hour. This is the time in seconds. So if you calculate, it's more than 1 hour actually, until here. And then I slept actually. So this time was during my sleeping time until a button was pressed. But this is the actual operation time. And you can see it exceeded 1 hour. So I'm not going to perform these operations during this session because it's just 1 hour. But I took the opportunity to perform these operations and show you a snapshot of 100,000. But now I'm going to show you maybe for 1,000 items or 500 items due to the limitation of this session. But you can see that within my humble machine, within the limited RAM I have, everything, it's just normal to add 100,000 within fairly 1 hour. 1 hour, 15 minutes. If you have a more powerful machine, you can perform much more. This is using the SPList item methodology. And, we're also performing comparisons between various methodologies, such as here, using the RPC methodology, it took much more less. You can see, it's much more less than 1 hour. It's around 533 seconds. So you can divide this here in your this will give you only 8 minutes, not 1 hour, 15 minutes. So you can see the various differences between those methodologies. Or you can use a link queue also, but not 100,000. I added just 1,000. 1,000 took 44,